Hello everyone, welcome to part 19 of this series. Today we're continuing with armor and fixing some of the issues we had. So in the last video there were several things we needed to address, and today we're doing that but also looking at armor stats. Now before we start, I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support, and in this case I would like to call out FFQ for creating the Cinti actions we are using today. Many thanks for that. So here we are back in our scene, and as you remember last time we had some issues with displaying armor in our inventory, menu for example, because the layers weren't set properly. We had some trouble with, properly changing the skin color on those as well, and when I say issue I mean it just didn't work because the way it was set up. And today we're fixing all of those things, but it's not as easy as, you might have anticipated. So we actually need some custom actions, and I will link all of those in the description. So the first action, in order to display the armor properly in the inventory, we are using a slightly modified version of the attach layer action that is available in the hub. So there was a official action in the hub that allows you to modify the layer of an object, but unfortunately this did not work for the children of that object. And the problem with that is that because we instantiate a mesh on the character, it becomes a new object, so not really all that, not really literally the same as in the prefab, meaning that we unfortunately could not set the layer beforehand. So we needed a modified version of that action that allows us to do just that, also modify the children. So we're going to start with one thing first, and that's literally a on start add armor. And in order to save some time testing, I'm going to be adding the armor items we created last time just by default when we start our game. And the reason for that is because it will just save a lot of time testing, and we don't want to randomly, we set up random loot drops, so I don't want to, have to kill the enemy every single time, just hope the right armor piece will drop. So we're just going to cheat. And we'll be adding those items from the start. Now, as you might remember last time, unfortunately this did not properly display in our inventory, and what we need to do for that is use the first custom action. So we go to modular characters, and the reason we're doing it on this one is because the instantiated object will appear in this hierarchy, so as a child of modular characters. So we're going to add a trigger here, and we're going to go to object because that's where the custom action will be. Oh, well, maybe not here, maybe I need an action first. So let's do actions, and let's drag that in. So we're going to go to object, and completely below you'll see change layer. Now if you already downloaded this from the hub, please make sure you have the correct version that also changes the children. And we'll need a restart because it needs to keep doing this. And that's it. That's literally going to be it. So this is the layer we set to display in our inventory, and now let's make sure that works. So we automatically have those items in our inventory now, and as you can see, they're displayed in our inventory immediately. So really cool, really simple, but yeah, it's not something that was actually really doable without this customized action. So because of the way instantiating works. So yeah, really simple fix once you have the correct action, of course, so that's easy to say. But yeah, that's literally it. That's all we have to do. So really cool. Now the next step is making sure we can change the skin color properly. And again, custom actions given by FFQ on Patreon. So again, thanks for that. And in order to do this, we'll need to make a couple of changes, but it will actually make our character customization better as well. So it's not just fixing, you know, our armor problem, it's actually fixing some other issues as well. So I'm going to hit play, and you know, I want to talk briefly through some of the, well, let's just say issues we had. So if I open up on my menu, go to change character, change the skin color, and then change face, and you know, we need to press this again, and that was, you know, one of the downsides, for example. So, you know, not ideal. And the same here, and you know, it was annoying, and etc. So definitely some, you know, downsides to the way the system worked. Now we're going to do this in a new and proper improved way. So let's open up our menu. Going to turn off the HUD, just makes it easier. Going to turn off our inventory tab, and we'll open up our systems tab. And let's actually focus on that, 2D view. And let's turn on our panel for customization. There we have it. Perfect. So we'll need to do a couple of things here in order to make sure all of this works, but basically we're going to use the new custom actions for this. And yeah, this will give some benefits as well, other than just displaying the armor properly. So what we did previously, and let's make sure we can select the proper one, and I'm sure something is in the way. That's our quest HUD is in the way here. So I'm going to turn that off for now. So let's actually drag that up just to make sure it's not in our way. There we go. So we changed materials with these actions, and obviously the problem with this is that if you instantiate objects, you know, they'll have a different material. So, you know, as you can see, we're changing materials all the time. And the same happens when we swapped faces. You know, they constantly, you know, you swap materials and you need to update that. So that's why it didn't work properly. I mean, there was a manual way to get over this and fix it, which, you know, asked for a lot of manual labor. So the great thing here is that we can get rid of this. Now, first thing we need to do is make sure we choose the correct material. And I would definitely suggest not using the original Fantasy Hero material that we had available. And the reason for that is because if you then change, you know, one property, this would also change the same property for all of the other characters, for all of the, you know, random characters in the world. So definitely make sure you have a separate material, and I'll just use the first one we created. And we're going to remove all actions. And there we go. Now what we need to do here is add our first custom action. So Cinti modular actions, and we're going to do change skin. And we're going to drag in that material, and then we're going to change the skin color. Now there are some values for this, you know, we set up last, and I'll just be using the same values, and I will be cheating, and I'll add these in the description as well to save some time. Might make it, you know, a tiny bit easier. So yeah, we're definitely going to do that, and make sure this is set to 0. Quite important. That's how it is with the original material, so I just replicate that just for safety. So we changed, you know, the skin color here, but we did a bit more. We made sure that, for example, the, you know, the scar and the stubble matched as well with the skin color, and I think that is quite important. So let's make sure we do that. Stubble, and again, you know, a value I'm already aware of. So for the stubble, this was I'm pretty sure this was the correct value. There we go. And that was a slightly darker version, and that's the same color as we have here. And we're going to do the same with the scar. And that's simply because with darker skin colors, the scar just didn't match well. I'm honestly, not really sure when it comes to realism what the color of the scar should look like. But that's my, personal opinion. I don't think it really matched all that well. But if you think the original color matches for all skin colors, just don't do this. So we're going to do change scar, and again, we're going to set this to 0, and we're going to fill in these values. So this was the original color. And there we go. So yeah, this was the set of actions that will basically give us this color. Now for button 2, we'll need to do the same thing. So I'm going to remove all of these. There we go. And I'm going to first, well, let's do that for all actually, just we'll make it slightly easier. There we go. So let's copy all of those actions over. It's a shame it doesn't keep them in a clipboard or something for a bit longer, but that's okay. And then the last one was this scar. And there we go. Now let's change these values. So there we go. Pretty funny that, without adding those last two numbers, it becomes something entirely different. Oh well. And again, especially I do want to highlight when it comes to the scars, I'm not really sure there is any form of realism here. I'm not all that familiar with how it should look. I just thought this looked better in game. I'm not really sure it's correct, but and there we go. And I do get this is not terribly exciting, but yeah, in the meantime, you'll need to do the same, so it will help doing this. Give you some time. Perfect. So these are these values. Here for the last skin color, I kept the scar the same. Thought that looked fine. Same with the stubble. The only thing I really changed here was the skin color. So a bit lighter. And there we go. So just a bit lighter. So yeah, that's it for the skin color. So as you can see, a lot less work than our original approach. And some benefits because, as we're not actually changing materials and we're altering the material, changing the face in real time will actually make sure the color is correct in real time as well. Obviously, we will need to set up some things for that. So, this won't work straight away, but it will be incredibly easy. I'm going to do hair color immediately as well. And I'm really, really happy. Everything in regards to hair color was grouped in one action. So eyebrows, hair, and beard. Honestly, I'm really happy with that. Saves a lot of time. And yeah, I mean, I didn't have it as a separate separate option anyway, so I'm really happy with that. And there we go. So let's copy over this one, paste it in, and what was the value here? This value was the easiest because it was just black, so that's nice. And the last action, and there we go. So yeah, a lot easier, saves a lot of time really, and you know, as I mentioned before, it's you know, going to be more accurate. Now we do need to make sure that all of these actually translate well, and right now our character model is not actually using any of these this material, so we do need to make sure that it does. So go to modular characters, male parts, so torso, and I'm going to, there's no point in selecting all actually. So there we go. Facial hair. Now there we do need to select it all, because except for the first one, because the first one was no facial hair. There we go. And yeah, here it's you know, there's not that much we have to do. It's just the first one. There's no point in doing the rest either, by the way, because we're instantiating new objects, so there's literally just no point in doing it. I want to be absolutely clear about that. And there we go. Hand as well. The hips don't really have any skin color, and that's the thing. If you know, if there's no skin color, there's not much of a point in doing it whatsoever. So there we go. That's that, and we need to do the all gender parts hair, because we added all hair for some reason. I felt like doing that last time, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting face here as well. Eyebrows, we actually do need to do all eyebrows. There we go. Head, I'm not really sure which head we had. Yeah, and there we need to select all heads as well. That's quite important, because we're, you know, we have the ability to swap between all of them. So we have head, eyebrows. I'm pretty sure we did facial hair, right? I can't remember. Yeah, we did facial hair. Okay, so we're good there. So all of that is covered. Now what we need to do as well is go to our armor sets, and well, the chest didn't have skin color, so I mean, let's just do it anyway. This was some experimenting. You can completely forget. Can't remove that. So we had our torso, and yeah, you need to drag it into here as well. So if you go to the defaults, you know, I already changed this for testing. And yeah, the same needs to be done obviously with the gloves, and I'm not sure I actually did that, so let's double check. And yeah, I did that for the gloves as well. So with the gloves, the important part is that each piece gets changed the material as well. So really important, so make sure you do it. Each piece that is part of your glove set. And technically you wouldn't have to do this, but you know, it's just easier. So there we go. That's all of that, literally. So let's try this out now, and Gonna turn off the panel here. Make sure this all works like it should, you know. And there we go. Quest HUD can be back on again. Menu turned off and HUD turned on. So we're going to change character. We'll change the skin color, and as you can see that, you know, that works straight away. And then when we swap faces, all of that works as well. And again, you might have to play a bit with the colors for the scars. Again, I'm not really sure what it's supposed to look like. But yeah, it's, you know, you get the gist. So if you don't like the color, just obviously change the color. Now the important part is that, you know, in the same menu, we're going to go to, oh, this one too far, going to go to our inventory, and if we equip all of these, instantly we'll have the correct color. As you can see, it's all displayed correctly in our menu as well. Cool. So now that that's done, we can go back to our scene. So where's our player? There we go. And that's one other thing. As you can see, these changes actually stay, so skin color stays. It's because we're altering the actual material. So that's, you know, happens inside of the editor as well, inside of play mode as well as outside of play mode. So that might be pretty, you know, a nice little advantage as well. Now, I do want to highlight a couple of things here. We actually, because of these actions, a lot more is actually possible than was before. So I'm just going to go here and just go through some of these actions, as useful as they are. And just to show them, we're not going to do it, but you know, you could do, you know, have the option in the character customization to change the color of the, well, body art, tattoos, whatever you want to call them, which is really cool. Eye color and clothing as well, and I really like that option of clothing in there as well. Personally, I wouldn't do it in character customization. I would have like some, I don't know, some shop where you can alter colors or whatever. But it's really cool that all of these are in there. I really do appreciate that. You know, gives you some more creativity. So yeah, really, really cool. Great actions, and would definitely recommend this. So now that we've done that, the next thing I want to address, and you know, some people asked about it and what's the next logical step, what are we going to do in regards to stats? So our armor is for now just cosmetic, and that's not really what we want. So there's a couple of ways to do this, and you might have already seen this being dragged in here, and that's basically I think it was this one, base enemy damage. Yeah, that was this one. So I'm going to drag that in here. So here, base enemy damage, and now it has become a prefab. So this is the damage that is done onto the enemy, onto the player, I think. So let's go to life and death, and yeah, base enemy damage. Now right now this is referring to this one, you know, that we have in our scene, and we need it to refer to the general prefab. And the reason for that is because we need to be able to access this outside of the scene. So as you can see, the default value is 10. And let's go to our preferences, and here we can actually play around. Now there's so many things to do here, and basically they're all going to be the same. It's just whatever you prefer, whatever mechanic, you know, you like to have. So add action, we can do a couple of things. So I'm going to show you all of these different options, and then you can decide for yourself whatever your preference is. So we can have, you know, do a stat change. So change attribute, health, add, you know, 10 health. And on unequip, subtract, and yeah, that's it. You know, this armor will now give you more health, and that's one way of doing it. Another thing we can do is where are we? So when it comes to our stats, we can change attributes. So player attributes, vitality, which is the value behind the health. We can do that as well, and the big difference is that the amount of hearts will stay the same, but you know, it will basically, you'll still take less damage. That's what it comes down to. So that's another option. Another option is, you know, modifying the damage enemies do on you. So that's why I dragged this in, and I want to show that as well. Or, you know, increase the damage you do, for example, which is an option as well. So those are variables. So we can do a variable add this variable and just drag in this one. So index 0, because it's our index 0, and you know, if you add 10, they'll now do, well, they'll do more damage actually, which is the opposite of what you want to do, but you get what I mean. I mean, you can just do it minus 10. So yeah, that's an option, you know, one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is setting a new fixed value. So you go to stats, no, variables, sorry about that, variables, variable number, list variable, we'll drag in base damage, index 0, and make sure you select index 0, that's the value we always use, and the new value will be 9. And then always make sure that on unequip, you know, you set it back, or so if you add, make sure you subtract the same amount. If you you know, make a change, make sure you change it back to the original. Now, adding and subtracting is, in my opinion, the better way to do it, because, you know, there might be different things that would actually contribute to that value. So I'm going to do that. So I just wanted to show that this could be done as well if your system will be less complex. So, you know, that's one way of doing it. So yeah, I'm going to go with with variables and variable add. There we go. No, subtract. What am I doing? Variable subtract, and that way it will subtract a default, you know, a certain value of the damage they're doing. And if you, for example, have a difficulty system like I did for my game jam, then you're not messing up the difficulty system, because you're just changing the number that's there and whatever that number might be. So if you have a difficulty setting for easy, normal, hard, and on hard, you know, damage is 20, easy damage is 5, and normal damage is 10, for example, then this wouldn't mess with that system. Now, if you do it a different way, if you set default values, if you are tying difficulty to damage output as well, for example, it will mess up that system. So that's why, in my opinion, this is a better approach. So base enemy damage, index 0, and we're going to subtract 1. That's fine, and then you could do, you know, per piece, whatever. And then we need to add, I think, here. So what is it? Variable add list variable index 0, and there we go. And we add 1, and here we subtract, and we add 1. So this is, yeah, one way of doing it. Now, if you want to have a separate armor stat, literally an armor stat that is going to, you know, give some artificial armor rating to things, that could, you know, that's doable as well. You know, just create a new stat. That's literally all there is to it. But then it becomes a bit more complex when you want to actually, you know, do a damage system, because you need to make sure it takes damage, armor into account as well. So it will definitely complicate things a tiny bit, but you know, it's, with the stats module, it is easy to do. It's just a bit more work. So completely depends. I mean, I don't really personally see any value in doing that, but if you know, enjoyed that, that's great. You know, go for it. So yeah, here we have something basic, and that's just what I'm going to keep here. Now, another thing you might want to do is if you look at, Breath of the Wild, for example. Okay, maybe for all types needs to be on. So if you look at Breath of the Wild, then, certain clothing, armor pieces, whatever you want to call them, will have special abilities, resistance to a certain element or whatever. We didn't really set up elements yet, but it's basically comes down to the same thing really. Just make sure you add that action on equip so you can always remove the same effect with on unequip. So I haven't really thought of anything yet because we're not using elements or anything of the like, and this is a basic armor set. But there's so much you could do. You could change player speed. You can. So for example, character property, where we go. Set run speed. You could increase run speeds, for example. There's so much you can do with this, but you all should do them here really, because then you always have the option to remove all of those things you're adding to unequip to in order to remove them, and that's quite important. Obviously, you don't want them to be permanent effects, because then everyone will just equip everything and they'll just stack everything infinitely, which is not really how it's supposed to be. I mean, you could do that, but it's cheating. So yeah, that's it for what you could do with armor. I mean, I'm sure there's more you can do, but it's actually really not all that complicated. So if you want to do the same, for example, that a certain piece will increase the damage you're outputting, you do the same. So we drag in that player damage, and you're literally just going to add a value to that. So default we do 20, and you add a number to that, and we're doing more damage. So it's really it can be quite easy actually, and this is a perfect example of how it's not all that hard. So later on we might set up some special armor, have some special abilities tied to it, but for some basic armor stats, the ways I showed you are definitely good ways to have some value to that. So yeah, that's it really. So a couple of fixes and a couple of new things, but a definite improvement. So again, I would like to thank FFQ for providing these Cinti actions, saving me a lot of time of having to do them myself. So thanks again for that. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.